All right, y'all. So I just finished the season 4 of Insecure, and I thought, for whatever reason, it's a bit controversial. So I thought I'd give y'all my thoughts on what I thought about Insecure. So the first thing that I need to get off my chest is that I was very, 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 very. Oh, by the way, it's your boy Dr. Lewis, not the third, the one and only. It's important to say your name, so people know who you are. But anyway, back to Insecure. I was very, very behind. I was 2 seasons behind, and so I had to catch up. Everyone was talking about Lawrence, and as far as I had known, Lawrence was gone from the show. So that's where I kind of re-enter back into the mix. Is I'm like, why is everyone talking about Lawrence in the season finale when, to my knowledge, the brother gone? And so I had to catch up on season 3. Lawrence comes back basically at the end of season 3, and my first thought was, oh shit, Lawrence been fucking. And then we saw what happened with him and his little, STD running, and I was like, oh shit, Lawrence was fucking. And so it quickly went from to and it's kind of funny because when Lawrence left the show, everyone was kind of up in arms, and I thought their response was correct. The show's not about Lawrence. It's about Issa. It's about Molly. It's really about their relationship. And so when Lawrence was gone, it didn't make me know never mind. And the show did become a lot more centrally focused on female friendship, which is what it should be focused on, especially if that's where Issa wants to take it. It's her show, and it's about her, her thoughts, her probably somewhat her life. And so when Lawrence was gone, that didn't really bother me, though it made it, because you're not getting any kind of guy's perspective at all, it made it a lot more of a show that isn't necessarily for me. And I mean, the show still is not for me. And so I'm always going to come at it from a different view. But what is interesting to me about Lawrence's return is that when he comes back, that almost immediately half of the show then becomes about Lawrence again. It's almost immediate that his storyline overpowers the episode, and I'm like, okay, so are we just gonna kind of go back to being a show that's somewhat about Lawrence and somewhat about Issa? And it doesn't really do that. What I like about Insecure and what I like about season 4 really is that the show is about who the show needs to be about, so that the story will move. They'll have whole episodes that are, they'll focus on Issa because she's the main character. It's always filtered through her perspective. But then the other half of the show can be about Amali, can be about Nathan, can be about Lawrence. And so that interests me about the show, that's how they develop the characters, aside from Issa. And I thought season 4 was great. What I think a lot of people are reacting to is that it's an uncomfortable season. The show is centered, the lifeblood of the show is Issa and Molly's friendship. And Issa and Molly are pretty much not friends for the entire season. I thought it was a little gimmicky how they started the season off with Issa saying me and Molly aren't friends anymore, and then they kind of backtrack and go through the story. It didn't really pay off, I think, because when we get to that point, Issa and Molly aren't cool, but they haven't had that big blow up yet, and so it promises something that it doesn't necessarily pay off at that moment, but it does then pay it off that episode. And so that criticism that I kind of had for it, that kind of died out. I thought they kind of oversold that from spotlighting that at the beginning of the season, but then they kind of made up for it. And I think why people don't like the season finale and kind of feel like they're being left on a cliffhanger, which Insecure kind of always leaves you like that from season to season. They give her a new problem and obstacle to overcome pretty much in the last episode, and then we kind of see how she's going to deal with it going forward, because that's how life is. You deal with one obstacle, you finally think you're through that obstacle, and then it throws another one at you. And so with the whole Lawrence being spoilers for the season finale of Insecure. If you're still watching, I don't know why you didn't think that would happen, but that's what's going to happen. And so with the whole reveal that Lawrence is having a child by another person, right when him and Issa were finally looking like they were about to make it like work like for real, that's uncomfortable. It's not a fun place to be left off on, but that's kind of how life goes. Issa overcame one obstacle in her life, kind of saw where she needed to be from a job career perspective. She was finally getting everything on track, and then boom, disaster strikes. And now we got to figure out how that works. And I think because they did that while also not necessarily resolving the tension between her and Molly. Her and Molly are still not necessarily fixed, though we see the seeds of them maybe getting back to figuring out where that friendship could go from here. We see the seeds of that at the end of the episode, but that's still not fixed, and it feels like it's unresolved. And I actually like that choice, because they could have done something very hokey and unrealistic and had them fight the whole season, and then kind of talk it out and fix it in one sitting. And that's just not how life works. Life does not work that way. When something is broken, it just does not get fixed over the course of even 3 episodes of television. That's just not a proper resolution. That's going to take time to build. They're going to have to restart, refresh, because I thought it was a very realistic portrayal of how a friendship that is strong can go awry. Basically, they moved to 2 different points in their lives, and their communication was so lacking that they didn't ever bother to fill the other one in on where they were at that time. And so they both view each other as the old versions of themselves, and they both have points and have frustrations that are real because of that fact. Like Molly is in a committed relationship and is trying to be happy, is trying to change, but Issa still sees her as someone who doesn't want to be happy, who's looking for things that are wrong. And Molly, though she does still do that, is actively working on that, but Issa doesn't see that. Meanwhile, Issa is getting herself together career-wise, and Molly doesn't see that. She still kind of sees Issa as kind of beneath her on the career hierarchy, because Molly's successful and Issa's kind of been fumbling around a little bit. And so she still sees herself as having to backpack that friendship when Issa's kind of grown up this season. She put together a whole block party, not by herself, but pretty much on her own, was problem solving, was fixing all those things. And so they both see each other as the old versions of themselves, even though they're new versions of themselves. And that's because their communication has been so lacking. And they actually did a good job of setting that up at the end of season 3, where you could start to see the cracks in the armor. They would throw a little kind of shade at each other, and it would be funny, and the other one would just kind of laugh it off. And they kind of built off that. It was kind of a slow burn, and then at the end, to start season 4, they kind of ripped the Band-Aid off. And so I think that's a little bit of the reason why people, aren't as jazzed about this season and the season finale. Is it was an uncomfortable season. The show revolves around the humor and hilarity and realness of Molly and Issa's relationship, and that was broken this season, truly, completely fractured. And so it was uncomfortable to watch, but I think it was real, and I think it was worth it. And I think you get to see how friendships can go astray if you don't water them, nurture them. I think that's a good lesson for everybody. Also a good lesson that you can fix it, but you got to put in the work. That's basically what the end of the season was about, right? Neither of them truly wanted to put in the work, and so even though they made, cosmetic attempts to get back together as a unit, they didn't hold because they weren't really figuring it out. They were just kind of trying to go back to the way things were, and things can't be like that. And so it was uncomfortable. It was real. It was a little annoying at times because to have a television show, you can't really, especially when both of them are really main characters who you want the audience to like, you can't make the transgressions too big. Like in a perfect world, they would be fighting over things that were a little more weighty, like a little more in the wrong, like Issa going slightly behind Molly's back could seem like not that big of a deal to some people. To others, it might seem like a huge deal, but overall, it's not the worst transgression you could ever put against your best friend. But, they have to make sure that they're doing things that don't make these characters completely unlikable and unrelatable. And so some of the transgressions are a little small, and honestly, it actually makes it more real because that's how life works, right? It's not always the big stab in the back. It's little microaggressions that build up over time that make you feel like your friend isn't listening to you in a real way. And so they both had those kind of moments throughout the season 4 that broke those friendships apart. And now we'll get to see what kind of brings them back together, because honestly, the show does not work unless they repatch up that friendship. I don't want to say it doesn't work. It'll work. But I think it behooves the show to get them back to a good level, but they got to do it organically and they got to do it in a real way. So I'm excited for season 5. I thought they did a pretty good job with season 4, and I'm interested to see where they take it. So this has been your man, Dr. Lewis, not the third. Yeah, I'm a little corny. Who cares? I don't know how many more of these like kind of TV show reviews I'll do, but you know, you got this one. We're gonna upload this one to the YouTube, and we'll keep it rolling. So for the weekended take, and is this your king? It's your boy Dr. Lewis, not the third. Catch y'all next time.